On occasion, Victor, we as MMA fans, once a fighter runs afoul of athletic commission drug testing, have metrics put in front of us, milligrams per milliliter, all these different kinds of ways of measuring different kinds of substances. Testosterone to epitestosterone level is a metric that a lot of MMA fans become familiar with, nanograms per milliliter, things like this. Can you name maybe one or two optimum metrics for a mixed martial arts athlete? For example, it still remains entirely unclear, am I right, what level of testosterone an athlete can have that's considered fair, within normal range, and fair to both parties. It sounds like a very wide range that potentially is safe.
Well, that TE ratio, it's called, the testosterone to epitestosterone ratio, used to be 6-1, and now they have reduced it down to 4-1. But athletes can still very easily use fast-acting testosterone, creams and gels and water-based testosterone, and you do microdosing and keep it below the 4-1 ratio. So it's relatively easy for an MMA fighter or any other athlete to circumvent the testing if all they're doing is the TE ratio test. Which, let me put this in perspective. There's a complete panel of steroids that they do that includes the TE ratio test. And back in the Balco days, I used to pay $80 for this, and I'm sure in volume that some of these organizations are paying as little as $50 for it. But there's another test called the CIR, or carbon isotope ratio test, that can differentiate between natural in testosterone that's produced in your body and synthetic testosterone. And there are cases. Justin Gatlin, who won the Olympic gold medal in the 100 meters in 2004, is a specific example. They got a tip that he was using testosterone. So they went and they tested him at a meet. And even though his epitestosterone was actually higher than his testosterone level, and it came out that he had had an injection about 2 weeks previous to when the sample was collected, they still found that he was positive for testosterone based upon this carbon isotope ratio test, and they banned him. And so what I'm saying is they need to incorporate this sort of test, which is much more effective. And my understanding is that even now in boxing with Floyd Mayweather in the last couple of fights against Mosley and Ortiz, that they had Olympic-style testing, which I don't think that's what it is, because I believe that Olympic-style testing is 24/7, 365. That's simply random testing for a given period of time, 8 to 10 weeks, whatever it is, before the fight. So I think that, they need to start utilizing this carbon isotope ratio testing, and then they'll be catching a lot more of these athletes that are using fast-acting gels and creams and water-based testosterone, because at the moment it's fairly easy to circumvent the testing.
Right. And those CRR testing, it sounds like, Victor, is, to you, going to detect something that right now is probably quite popular. I don't know what kind of insight you have into the MMA culture specifically, but it sounds to me, if I was an athlete and I thought that this would give me an edge, I would gravitate towards the things that the standard urine test can't detect, and only things the CIR test can detect. I would go in that direction.
Well, let me give you another example here, and something that I think, this is a suggestion that I have for even these state commissions that regulate MMA. All they have to do, first of all, let me, in giving some background, say that I believe that blood doping, as well as the use of old-fashioned blood doping where they extract and then reinfuse their own red blood cells, as well as EPO, the use is rampant. I believe there are a lot of MMA fighters as well as boxers out there that are doing this. Well, one thing that can be done is to set like they have in cycling, and doesn't mean that they're not still circumventing this in the world of cycling, but at least it makes it more difficult to use blood doping and EPO. And that is that they establish an upper limit for hematocrit of 50%. And it doesn't matter how your level comes in, whether it's from the using EPO or blood doping, if it's 50% or more, then they temporarily suspend you for what they call health concerns, meaning your blood is too thick. And one expert in this area, Don Catlin, who was interesting recently, said that he finds it of great interest that a lot of these cyclists come back and their hematocrits are all at 49.5. but at least it would somewhat help in leveling the playing field. And what they do now basically is just collect samples before and after the fight, urine samples. The blood samples that they collect are typically for what they call the fighter's trilogy, which is nothing more than HIV and hepatitis and things like that. So they need to do blood testing as well as urine testing for a period of time once a fight is signed, from then up until the fight, and look at blood. And this complete blood count contains a hematocrit. And in the old days, I used to pay during the Balco period $4.50. So it's not a expensive test, but it would be very effective at reducing the competitive edge that's being gained by athletes that are blood doping or using EPO.